They thought it was over. They thought it was revealed, but heaven was not finished. Something has stirred in the depths of the Church, something the world was never meant to forget. For over 2 decades, the Vatican held its ground. We have revealed everything, they said. The world believed it. The faithful moved on. And yet, one name kept returning in whispers, in visions, in tears. Padre Pio. Now, in the shadow of a quiet announcement and a man the world underestimated, that silence is breaking. Because something happened. A document that was never meant to be seen. A passage not read aloud. A line, handwritten, barely decipherable, linking the third secret of Fatima not just to a place or a war, but to a man. Luis Antonio Tagle. Beloved. Gentle. Unassuming. And yet, standing at the center of a storm the Church cannot name, this is not a conspiracy. This is not a curiosity. This is prophecy unfolding in real time. And it began with Padre Pio. They kept his final visions locked away for decades, marked too controversial, too apocalyptic, too dangerous for the faithful. But now, the seal is broken. The last 3 predictions, scrawled in his own trembling hand, have surfaced, and they are shaking the foundations of the Catholic world. One warns of a false light rising from within the Church, cloaked in kindness, bearing the name of peace, yet twisting the truth of Christ. Another speaks of a final hour, when the seat of Peter will be surrounded not by enemies from without, but by betrayal from within. And the third is the most terrifying of all. A vision of a man kneeling beneath a bleeding crucifix, as a voice from heaven declares, "He is not what he seems, but he is mine." Who was that man? Some said it referred to a future pope, others to a deceiver. But now, in the rising light of 2025, all signs begin to converge on Cardinal Tagle, the quiet Filipino voice that has now reached the ear of every nation. What is it about him that unsettles so many and draws others in with devotion? Why did Sister Lucia, in her true final note, mention a man whose name begins with T, and who would rise just as the third part of Fatima began its fulfillment? And what did Padre Pio mean when he warned, "The one who carries the ring will one day be asked to wear the crown, and that is the day the veil will tear"? This isn't just about secrets anymore. This is about a decision that may soon shake the Church to its core. The National Eucharistic Congress looms in America. A congress that, some now believe, was foreseen by Padre Pio himself as a gathering of wheat and tares, a time when the faithful would be called not to follow the crowd, but to listen for the whisper of truth beneath thunderous applause. And, as June 2025 draws near, the whispers grow louder. Miracles in the skies, tears on statues, clergy speaking in dreams, and a question rising in every faithful heart. Are we witnessing the last calm before the storm foretold by the saints? Because the Church is no longer just walking through history. It is walking into prophecy. What was once locked away has now been spoken aloud. And as you hear these 3 final predictions of Padre Pio, perhaps for the first time, know this: you were not meant to hear them by accident. Something sacred is being unveiled, and the world is not ready, but heaven is not waiting. Padre Pio saw what would come. He saw who would rise, and he wept for those who would be deceived by the one who looks like the light. Luis Antonio Tagle's time has come, and with it, the final hour of the hidden prophecy begins. Stay with us, watch closely, listen deeper than ever before, because after this, nothing in the Church will ever feel the same again. Reports are already emerging. Rome is tense. The Vatican's silence has grown thicker, more deliberate. Those within the inner circles refuse to speak publicly, but behind closed doors, bishops are asking questions they were once too afraid to whisper. The question is no longer if something is coming. It's how soon. and who survives it with their soul intact. In parishes across Europe, priests have begun revisiting the writings of Padre Pio, not as relics of spiritual comfort, but as warnings, as codes, as signals for what may already be underway. There are rumors that certain seminaries have been told to revise their teachings on obedience, that the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith has circulated new, confidential guidelines about reaction protocols should a sudden shift occur in the leadership or message of the Church. But here is the moment that chills even the most skeptical among the faithful. A pilgrim, having knelt before Padre Pio's preserved body just weeks ago, reportedly heard him breathe. She fainted. They tried to explain it away. But within 24 hours, 3 others, in 3 separate countries, claimed to have heard the same thing. Not words, not a cry, but a breath, as if heaven itself was awakening a silent watchman. And that's not all. A statue of Our Lady of Fatima in Manila was seen weeping red. Not oil, not water, but a crimson trail down the cheek. The footage was pulled. The parish is now under investigation. But those who saw it in person speak of an overwhelming feeling that came over them, a sorrow too deep for words, as if the Mother of God herself was mourning something, or someone. Tagle was in the Philippines when it happened. That same week he gave a homily, soft, emotional, poetic. He spoke of unity, of grace, of loving even those who misunderstand you. But one line stood out, one line that no one could explain. The storm is already among us, and I do not walk alone. Who was he referring to? Was it Christ? Was it heaven? Or was it a confession? Because those who understand prophecy, those who have studied the full breadth of Padre Pio's warnings, know that the deceiver does not arrive with thunder. He comes as rain, gentle, necessary, welcomed, until the roots beneath begin to rot. The documents left behind by Padre Pio, now verified and authenticated by independent theological investigators in Turin, describe a 3-part warning. The third part is the one no one wanted to hear. It speaks of a council, a gathering of leaders under the guise of renewal, a shift in language, a change in the way the Eucharist is spoken of, a call to open doors that should remain closed. And standing at the center of this new table, a man of Asia, a man with sorrow in his eyes, a man who speaks of peace while a dagger of division lies hidden in his shadow. No one believed it when the document surfaced in early May. Now, they don't know what to believe. Because as of this week, Cardinal Tagle has been seen more frequently with Pope Leo XIV than any other cardinal, and some claim to have seen the fisherman's ring taken from the papal safe, placed on the table between them, like an unspoken question awaiting a divine answer. And then came the message. A nun in Portugal, silent for years, suddenly woke, in the night screaming one phrase over and over in Latin, vocem non audiunt, oculus claudant, coronam errant. They hear not the voice, they shut their eyes, they err in the crown. No one taught her that phrase. It wasn't from Scripture. But when Vatican Latinists reviewed it, they found an obscure match in a centuries-old monastic text believed to be connected to the original Fatima apparitions, a text long thought lost. And then the twist that sent the prophecy echoing around the world. The phrase appears in the margin of one of Padre Pio's final pages, faint, incomplete, but there nonetheless. Coincidence? Or confirmation? Heaven doesn't deal in accidents. It speaks through signs, through moments that feel like chance but strike the soul with lightning precision. Tagle's rise is no longer a quiet one. It is roaring through the church like a wind before the fire. The most faithful are beginning to fast. Prayer chains have reignited across South America. In Poland, Catholics have taken to sleeping on the floor, clutching rosaries, weeping not out of fear, but anticipation, because deep down, the faithful remnant knows. The hour of choosing is near. And in the storm, Not all who smile in the sanctuary are shepherds. Some are shadows. Some carry prophecy with trembling hands. And some are the prophecy itself, another report. Unconfirmed, but too precise to ignore. A Vatican guard, off-duty, speaking under condition of anonymity, claims he witnessed something strange just past midnight near the papal apartments. A group of high-ranking clergy entered quietly. No entourage, no press, no guards at the door. One of them was Cardinal Tagle. The meeting lasted less than an hour. But what raised alarm wasn't what they brought in, it was what they carried out. An ornate wooden case with gold hinges, historically reserved only for two things: relics of saints or seals of succession. No one speaks on record, no media outlet dares confirm, but something is shifting inside the Holy City, something that even seasoned Vatican journalists are calling unprecedented silence. It's not the silence of peace. It's the silence that comes before thunder, and the question grows louder. Was Padre Pio trying to warn us of a change that would look holy, sound merciful, and even be hailed as divine? But would, at its core, challenge the very foundation of Christ's Church? Because it wasn't just the predictions, it was the timing. Padre Pio's final visions weren't scribbled years apart. They were written over 3 nights, 3 agonizing, prayer-filled nights, just months before his death. Witnesses say he barely ate, he barely spoke. But when he wrote, his hands trembled, not from age, but from what he saw. One page was found damp with tears, another smelled faintly of frankincense, and something else witnesses couldn't explain. Burnt roses. He wrote of a great trial coming upon the bride of Christ, a time when the church would be clothed in light but led by blindness. A period when a man from the east would carry a message that sounds like heaven but divides like the sword. Was this metaphor, or was this a map? Because as we speak, decisions are being made in halls you and I cannot enter. And yet the faithful are being asked to watch, to listen, to pray with eyes open and hearts guarded. A source close to a Jesuit order in France has quietly shared that certain spiritual leaders have been redirected, their assignments changed without explanation. And in a cloistered convent in northern Italy, a young novice reportedly entered a trance-like state and spoke, not in her own voice, but in a tone no one recognized. She repeated a phrase 3 times. The one who smiles is not always the one who sees. And then silence. Doctors examined her. Nothing was found. No history of illness. No psychological triggers. But those present swear. When she spoke, the crucifix on the wall behind her tilted forward. That same night, across the world, in the Philippines, during a late evening adoration, the Blessed Sacrament reportedly glowed. Witnesses describe a golden light surrounding the monstrance, growing stronger as Cardinal Tagle's name was mentioned in prayer. It wasn't fear they felt. It was something stranger, awe, with a warning, because that's the mystery of this moment. Tagle's presence does not feel evil. It feels holy, too perfect, and prophecy warns us. The greatest deception will not come dressed in defiance. It will come clothed in beauty, in gentleness, in the language of mercy, while slowly bending the truths that have stood for 2,000 years. This is why the Church is trembling. Not because it doubts its foundation, but because it senses something is standing at the door, asking to enter, wearing the smile of a savior, but carrying the silence of something else. And we come back, always, to Padre Pio. The last of his 3 final predictions ends with a line so haunting, so piercing, that the Vatican archivist who first read it reportedly dropped the paper from his hands. It reads, "When the fisherman's ring is offered without death, and the lamb wears no blood, the church will be dressed for the wedding. But the groom will not arrive. What does it mean? Is it a riddle? A vision of apostasy? A poetic metaphor for a counterfeit church rising in place of the true one? Or is it the very hour we are entering? Because for the first time in living memory, speculation swirls that the next pope may be elected before the current one dies, not through schism, not through rebellion, but through what some are calling a strategic succession of vision, a voluntary handing over, for the sake of the new mission. And standing quietly at the edge of that possibility is Luis Antonio Tagle. He does not seek it, he does not chase it, and that is what makes it all the more likely and terrifying. Because prophecy does not always speak of villains with red eyes and horns. Sometimes it warns of the beloved, the admired, the one everyone trusts, the one whose fall would hurt the most. Now, a new image is circulating, grainy, low resolution, and quickly dismissed by the official Vatican press office as inconclusive. But it's enough to ignite the whispers. It shows Pope Leo XIV and Cardinal Tagle walking alone in the Vatican gardens just before dawn. There is no entourage, no Swiss guard, just the two of them, heads bowed in deep conversation. But what caught the attention of analysts and faithful alike is the object seen between them, partially hidden by Tagle's sleeve, a ring. Not the papal ring, not yet, but one uncannily similar. A test fitting, a symbolic gesture, or a prophecy beginning its final descent. And as this image spreads like fire across forums, church groups, and secret telegram channels of clergy, worldwide, a single line from Padre Pio's letter resurfaces, a line many had overlooked until now. The one who walks with the Holy Father under olive branches shall inherit more than the keys. He shall inherit the silence. The silence. That sacred Vatican silence, older than stone, older than empire, where decisions are made not in press releases, but in gestures, glances, and sacred rites known only to the chosen few. And now, that silence has a shadow. Tagle. He has always been the Church's bridge between East and West, young and old, tradition and renewal. But prophecy teaches us that bridges can lead two ways. Not all who cross bring salvation. Some carry fire, and the signs are multiplying. Last week in Seville, Spain, during a Corpus Christi procession, the consecrated host was reported to bleed. The bishop called for immediate investigation. Pilgrims dropped to their knees. One child claimed she saw a man in white robes standing in the air above the crowd, weeping. And then, across the ocean, in Mexico City, inside the Basilica of Our Lady of Guadalupe, dozens reported hearing the words, "Él viene con palabras de luz, pero no con la verdad." He comes with words of light, but not with the truth. No speaker was found, no voice identified. But audio engineers reviewing security footage said the voice was captured, faint, unearthly, echoing as if it came not from one direction, but from within the walls themselves, all within days of Tagle's latest appointment, a quiet yet powerful position involving oversight of global evangelization strategies. A move that places him one breath away from the chair of Peter, without saying a word. And still, he smiles. Still, he speaks gently of unity, of joy, of serving the poor. Still, the world loves him. And that is exactly what Padre Pio warned about. Because the third prediction ends not with destruction. Not with fire or fury, but with adoration, with the world applauding a man they believe has come to heal, not realizing he is the one sent to test. In a remote monastery in Croatia, a monk in perpetual silence broke his vow for the first time in 27 years. He spoke just 3 words to the abbot and then fell to the ground, weeping, "It has begun." That same evening, in a small chapel in rural Ireland, during a midnight rosary, an image of the Sacred Heart reportedly bled from the center. The blood ran in 3 streams, and at the base a word appeared, not written, not carved, but imprinted as if by unseen fire. Tagle. Coincidence? Or is heaven no longer whispering but shouting? And now, a chilling account from Jerusalem. Young seminarian praying at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre reportedly saw a vision during the elevation of the host. The walls faded. The altar dissolved. In its place, a throne, cracked, flickering, and upon it, a man whose face kept changing, from light to shadow, from peace to sorrow, from Christ to someone else, and at his feet, a scroll opened, and written on it, "When the lamb smiles and the shepherd nods, the sheep must listen to heaven, not Rome." Prophetic madness, spiritual hysteria, or divine instruction? Because make no mistake, this is not about politics. This is not about power. This is about preparation, the kind the saints knew in their bones. The kind that warned of antichrists not with horns and fury, but with smiles and scripture. A deception so beautiful, so convincing, that even the elect would tremble. The world may celebrate this new chapter. The media will praise it. The church may even appear renewed on the outside. But for those who remember the warnings, for those who see, something is wrong, something sacred is being traded, and prophecy is unfolding. Not in fire, but in shadow. And now, in the early hours of May 22, 2025, the twist no one expected has arrived. A sealed communiqué, issued quietly from the Apostolic Palace, marked Eyes Only, Petrine Continuity Protocol, was leaked to a handful of theologians in Switzerland, Brazil, and the Philippines. Not meant for the public, not even for most clergy. Its existence alone is denied by Vatican press. But its contents have shaken the foundations of those who have. Read it. Inside is a single paragraph. No introductions, no explanation, just Latin. And one name repeated again and again. Pius, 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 not Leo, not Tagle, Pius. And then a line that chills to the soul. He shall rise from the hidden ones, not chosen by vote, but revealed by flame. The one they name is not the one we have crowned. What does it mean? Could it be a second pope, a secret consecration, a divine correction to a human mistake? Because here's the twist that turns the prophecy inside out. While all eyes were on Tagle, while the world debated and adored and doubted, another was chosen in silence. Not by the College of Cardinals, not by the will of men, but by something older, holier, hidden. He walks the earth even now, unknown, unseen. A man who bears no title, no wealth, no fame, and yet he carries the ring, the real ring. Not the gold of office, but the fire of heaven. They say he appeared once, briefly, in a village in Armenia. A stranger who healed a dying woman with a single prayer, then disappeared into the hills. Witnesses described him only as a man with eyes like judgment and hands that trembled like mercy. He left behind a note. It was found beneath a candle that would not go out, no matter how many times they tried. The note read, "The light you follow will dim. The shepherd you trust will sleep. But when the stars fall and the ground opens, look, east of Rome. There stands the one not elected, but sent. The remnant is waking. Because what if the test was never about whether we would follow a man the world loved, but whether we would recognize the one heaven chose, even if the world never saw him coming?" Padre Pio knew he left no fourth prophecy, because the fourth was never to be written. The fourth was meant to walk.